what you majored in while you were a student here, what you currently do, and also what you were involved with here as a student. So if you don't mind starting.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Philippe Hernandez. While I was at USC, I majored in civil engineering with an emphasis in building science. I just recently graduated. I graduated last May in 2018, right? And currently I'm working as a project engineer in the construction services department at AECOM. Yeah.
Let's go down the line.
Hello everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm Tejas Kotkar. I graduated last year in May in structural engineering. Currently I'm working as a project engineer in Labib and Associates. Hello. So currently I'm working as a project engineer in Labib and Associates, and I'm working on a variety of residential and commercial projects. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elise Takebayashi. I graduated in 2014. My undergrad was in environmental engineering with an emphasis in biotechnology, and I did the PDB program, so I got my master's in civil engineering, water and waste resources. I work at a consulting engineering firm called CDM Smith. We're about a mid-sized company, 5,000 people. I've been there for 5 years now.
Hi, my name is Edgar Plazola. I graduated back in 2009. I got a master's of engineering in structural design. I work for Insight Structural Engineers. We're a structural engineering company in El Segundo, and I'm an associate, or what you would consider a senior project manager. Been with them for about maybe 15 years, and we do just about anything. Not too much residential, a lot of commercial, a lot of aerospace work, and a lot of hospitals and schools.
Hi, I'm Monika Iannnone. I graduated in 2010 with a degree in civil engineering, emphasis in environmental. I work as a project manager for Swinerton Builders down in San Diego. We're one of the largest commercial builders in California. If you look around the cranes in downtown, it's anybody that has the point up there is ours. Helps it stand out. As a project manager for them, I manage every aspect of the project from schedule to budget to constructability, so it's a really varied day-to-day and you get a lot of different experiences. When I was at USC, I was involved in Greek life. I interned at the Viterbi admissions office and went to a lot of football games. All right.
Hi everyone, my name is Mohammed. I graduated from USC in 2013. I also did the progressive degree program in civil with an emphasis in structural engineering. I currently work for a design firm called Structural Focus. I'm a design engineer, and when I was at USC, I was involved in something that not many engineering students are involved in. I was part of the Trojan Debate Squad, and I also did the EERI seismic design competition.
All right, last one. So, my name is Zhang. I graduated from USC date back 2013 with my undergrad. No emphasis, just general civil, not very special. And then master again, down at 2013, emphasis in construction engineering and management. So currently I work at a port of Long Beach, so one of the largest port in United States, especially in the West Coast. So we have impact at least like 2% of the GDP. I mean, 2%, right? Very small. But we so that means one of 20 workers or the profession in California will be working with us. So right now my title is a civil engineer. So actually I'm working as project managers when I was currently working at the Port of Long Beach. So about the school involvements, actually I went with Maria in the ERI, the structural competition, date back to 2012. Yes. And I also the design captain of the ASCE and involved a little bit other owner society of the engineering as the treasury and secretary. So, yep.
Well, thank you for introducing yourselves. Why don't we give our panelists a round of applause
All right.
So to get us started, I thought it would be nice for you to just share briefly kind of your career journey. I know that's a big question to answer, but maybe if each of you can spend no more than a minute just to share briefly like how you landed to where you're currently at in your current position. So maybe just if you want to give the mic back to Felipe down here, and then let's go back around. And then after that, I want it to be open for questions from you guys.
So a little bit about my career journey. So out of high school, I didn't come directly to USC. I went to community colleges. I transferred from Los Angeles Trade Technical College, which is really close to here. I still consider it my home. And so I majored in civil engineering, building science, because I really enjoy like residential and building things that have to do with residential and commercial aspect. Currently, I'm working with the AECOM Hunt, the construction services department, and we're building a lot of hotels, a lot of condos. I was involved a little bit with the Metropolis project. It's in downtown. It's one of the biggest residential complexes that has been built in California. And down the line, I don't know. I think I'm pretty early in my career. I think I want to explore more of the general contractor side, and eventually get into a little bit more of design, maybe down the road. But now, just trying to learn a little bit about how to build and being on the field and getting familiar with what it's like to actually see something get built from dirt to something people use every day.
Okay, so let me tell you about my background first. I did my bachelor's in India and I came here for my graduate school. So as an international student, we have our different struggle. But so during graduate school, I participated in different career fairs. I went out with the CEOS career fair, especially I got my first internship in the CEOS. So I definitely recommend you to go out and try different forums, connect with people, email them, stay in touch with them. For the second internship also, I started applying well before. I connected with the recruiters, and then I got my second internship at Thornton Thomas City in Kansas City. So I was not very specific about the location. I was just I just wanted to grab the opportunity. And after I got my 2 internships, finding the full-time job was comparatively easy, I would say. So that's what I'll suggest, that keep connecting, keep talking to people, stay in touch with them, and you will find your path. So currently I'm working on many residential, multifamilies, single family, and readaptive projects. Currently I'm working on one high-rise building in downtown. They are trying to adaptively use that building to residential from commercial. So yeah, I have so far my journey has been wonderful and stressful. That's it. Thank you.
So when I was a student, I put an emphasis on finding internships. I'm actually from Hawaii, so I went home for the summers. So finding an internship across the Pacific Ocean while being a student in LA wasn't the easiest, but what I did my sophomore year was during winter break, I went home to a career fair. It was just like a general, open to the public career fair that was like for science and technology and sustainability. So that was kind of the first time I put my resume out there, and I started talking to people from various companies. I think most of the companies there were kind of like solar panels or things that I wasn't quite interested in, but someone happened to mention this firm called Environmental Science International, so I looked them up, I sent an email, and they were able to offer me an internship that summer. And then the following summer, I had gone to a bunch of ASCE conferences while a student here, and I had connected with some they weren't alumni, but they were young professionals who worked in Hawaii, and I said, hey, I'm looking for an internship, I'm interested in water design, can you connect me with anyone? And she actually connected me with another USC alumni, so the Trojan Network works. And so I got my second internship in Hawaii. So then when I was a senior here, actually our undergraduate advisor afforded me an opportunity from CDM Smith, where I am currently, and I interviewed. They're right downtown, so I was able to take the expo line and work there 3 days a week and do my classes the rest of the time. And that one kind of just fell onto me. But I would say definitely like network as much as you can, come out to these events, talk to alumni, because you never know where those connections will lead you. As far as the past 5 years that I've been at CDM Smith, the whole first year I was interning while finishing my degrees. And after that, I've worked on a wide range of projects, all kind of related to water in one way or another. I started off doing groundwater modeling. I did some surface flow, like HEC-RAS flood modeling. I've done like a pre-design report for the LADWP groundwater replenishment. Right now I'm working on a design project for Orange County Sanitation District, and that's in support of their groundwater replenishment system. So all kind of related to water, everything from the planning phase to design phase to support drain construction. Thanks.
I've shared some of her experience. When I was in school, I actually looked for internships, and my first internship was through my advisor. I went to undergrad to Cal Poly Pomona, not too far from here, and I got my first internship through my water advisor. I used to be an intern at the LA County Sanitation Districts. When I graduated, I was lucky enough to find work right away back in 2003, but it was through CIOSC that I networked through CIOSC. CIOSC is the Structural Engineers Association of Southern California. It's kind of lengthy, but there's a student organization, and that was my go-to network for young professionals, people that connect with, even firms, big firms. Tim Jim Harris was there, I remember, a long time ago. That's how I got my first job. I was with my firm for about 2 years, and then I kind of wanted to do, at that stage in my career, I kind of wanted to do everything. I was a go-getter, and I moved to a very small firm. So small, it was just the owner and myself, just two people. And I remember Brent, first thing I said during my interview, he said, anything that you'd like? And it's like, yes, I want to do everything. I just want to do everything. And for 15 years, I've done everything from low man to the totem pole to now an associate. And the day-to-day things that I do is I'm not a guy that runs scouts. I just don't do that. I don't have the time to do it. I love doing it, but I just don't do it anymore. But it's more big picture. It's more business related. It's more client development. It's more going to meetings. It's more overseeing multiple projects. So it's a lot of fun. I'm kind of weird that when I went to undergrad, I wanted to be a structural engineer, and I stayed being a structural engineer to this day. So that was pretty cool.
So hearing all these like nice linear journeys with all your internships makes me feel very self-conscious about mine, but I definitely didn't have like the normal straight path. So I graduated from college in 2010, which, as most of you know, there weren't really jobs when I graduated. So I had spent most of my summers doing summer school. I did Viterbi abroad. I hadn't really focused on internships during my undergrad, and then by the time I graduated, everybody was saying, like, we're not even hiring the people that interned for us. So it was a little scary of a time to graduate, and I got reached out to from somebody who had graduated from USC saying, I need a stormwater inspector that's willing to drive 300 miles a day. I said, what does it pay? They're like $35,000 a year. Great, I'll take it. Do I not have to move home? So, like, there's, if you're a little unsure about where your path is and where it's going, like, that's okay. It can still turn out really well. So that's how I found out that I was interested in construction, as I'm driving around and inspecting all of these sites. and doing, stormwater runoff, collect a sample, drive to the next one, go to a lab, check the turbidity on it, and repeat. And going, wait, building that bridge looks cool, or doing that mass grading, or whatever it is that was at the site was really what was grabbing my interest. So I started working as a project engineer with that company, learning more about the construction side. Then through another connection at USC, who I had worked with in the Viterbi admissions office, he called me and said, I'm moving to Vegas to marry the girl of my dreams, and they've asked me to find my replacement. And I know nothing about you as an engineer, but we worked together in the admissions office, and you were great to work with, so I think you'd be a good fit here. So that's how I started working in the building side as a subcontractor. And then after about 2 or 3 years there, I had done a project for Swinerton Builders as a PMPE for their mechanical sub, and they said, you've been great to work with, we would love to have you work with us. So sometimes it is, those relationships that you make. A lot of times it's the relationships you make. And if you don't get your dream job, day one out of college, that's okay. It took me 5 years to find mine. And I'm so happy in the company that I'm working with. They've done an incredible job of letting me grow, letting me develop my career. And very similar to what you were saying, I'm not running calcs. I was never the person that wanted to be running calcs, but it's focused on those big picture client relationships, focused on how do we maintain a schedule and a budget on a multi-million-dollar project that has procurement challenges from day one. How are you going to problem solve? How are you going to work with people? That'll end up taking you, and maybe this is just my opinion, but in my that'll take you farther. Obviously your education's important and that's the foundation, but those relationships and the people that you work with are the ones that are really going to give you the opportunities and the growth. So just try and be easy on yourself when you feel like it might not be going right, or like when you just can't get something in a theory of structures class, it'll be okay. I promise. There's so much that you take with you that's beyond just what you learned in the books, and that's gonna bring your career really far. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. So my career path is more or less straight. I've always known that I wanted to do structural engineering. Well, actually, I take that back. I thought I wanted to do architecture first because I love to draw. But I realized there was less math and physics, so structural engineering was the best combination of having a little bit of creativity required, but then it's more of math and physics. So my sophomore year, it's very difficult to find a structural internship in undergrad, let alone as a sophomore. I had the opportunity to intern for the small structural engineering firm that was designing my family's house. And they didn't really let me do anything real, but I didn't know much. But at least it gave me insight into the day-to-day lives of structural engineering, and I knew I would enjoy working in structural engineering. So after my junior year, I went to the Viterbi Career Fair in October, and I talked to lots of structural engineering firms, lots of construction firms, and really liked the recruiter from Skanska. And we clicked. I loved talking to her, and she just told me, send me your resume, but go ahead and submit your application on our online portal also. So I went home the same day, sent her my thank you email, and submitted my application, and I noticed that they had an opening in New York City, and I've always wanted to try living in New York City, so I actually ended up choosing the New York City location. So I got to intern that summer, and I worked on the 9/11 subway renovations in downtown New York, and it was a great internship experience. So after my senior year, I was going into the progressive degree program, so I had another summer to do internships. I actually reached out to the structural engineers who were on that subway renovation project with me, and told them I would like to intern for Arab. That was a company, so that I get more structural engineering experience before I graduate. And they sent my resume in, and I got a summer internship again in New York after my senior year. But I had gone to the CIOSC career fair both my junior year and my senior year, and I've met recruiters for my current company at that job fair, and they both offered me a job. I accepted the Arab job before I could accept the structural focus job, but I set up an internship with them while I'm going to grad school. So I had the opportunity to intern for an entire year while I was doing my master's with structural focus, and I decided to accept a full-time position from structural focus after I graduated. My day-to-day is midway between managing projects, where it's a lot of meetings, a lot of site visits with clients, with other consultants, and I still get to do a little bit of calculations. I mean, sometimes after a long day of meetings and site visits, calculations are just like peace of mind where you're just relaxed at your desk. So I have a little bit of the balance still.
All right. So previous all the candidates, they are very good students. I guess they study hard. I'm not a good student, I will tell you guys, because when I studied in USC around like 2010, there's a career fair where there's just no jobs, but only one company is hiring. So I was intern to that career fair, but unluckily I fall asleep at that time. So even then they tried to hire me, I forgot to submit my resume. So that's that first experience that I have. So I missed that opportunity. The later days, it's really hard for me to find a jobs after 2010 because the economy has crashed. Oh, not really crashed, but
There were no jobs.
yeah, there's just no jobs. And even you volunteer yourself to the companies, and just nobody's gonna take you because they couldn't afford you, or they just don't know who you are. So what I did is I traveled. I took the class that is exchanged from United States to China. So I took a year there. Then I got an internship in Beijing, where I started to work as the structural engineer. So then my goal is become a structural engineer at the time. But something happens. After I come back, I try to find a job, and I still can't find it because people didn't recognize the jobs that I internship in China. So I end up doing, I volunteer myself to helping the local company to develop their residential complex. So by doing so, I volunteer myself and go to the building safety to pull permits. So at the time, I start to learn, what's the process of this and how to start to work as a professionals. Then after I graduate, I still couldn't find any jobs. I still volunteered the job in residential companies. Then something come up. I had an interview in Disney. So after I submit my resumes, then they call me and they interview me. So the first question is out of my mind. It's like, okay, we already read your resumes. So introduce yourself, but not include anything in the resume. I'm like, what the? It's so hard. So prepare these kind of questions when other companies ask you. But I do pretty well because I start to describe myself and like how difficulty for me to get a jobs at the beginnings. Then they start to recognize like maybe this guy is very valuable, to hire. So I got my first job in a Disney. So this is how it started. So I have a little bit of an emotion. So after that, then you start to pick it up because you have an opportunity and you grab it, and then you start to work hard, and then opportunity comes because you work hard. And also another networking event is very useful because later after I work at a Disney, and then still volunteer in residential companies. And because I missed one of the deadline, I got fired from the volunteer jobs. But it's okay, you know. Then I have another opportunity that comes up when I submit a resume to the city of Los Angeles. I was thinking like, hey, because I already managed the project in Disney and making, you know, the best town in the world, why not going to the city of Los Angeles to manage the real, you know, cities? So again, you have to try hard, but at the same time, you know, if you know someone, they will give you a secret how to pass that interview. Then you get it. Trust me, that works. So I got a certain job in the city, then I stay in the city for like 5 years. I do all the jobs that come up to me because I believe the opportunity for you is just transient, which means one stop at a time. If you didn't grab it, and you will miss it. So what I did is I try everything, start from the construction management, project management, design, then structural again, but I'm stuck at structural because I don't take any classes, and they ask me all the questions, and I was just like, you should ask someone else. Then they start to question like, hey, you're a structural engineer, right? I was like, I'm more like a civil engineer. So, yep. Then later, I got this job at Port of Long Beach is because I know someone who used to work with me, and they believe that I can work hard. So they just give me a job. So the peace of mind for you guys is study hard, you know. So don't go through this route. But my route is very interesting though.
Hey guys, as you can see, there's been, you know, just various career paths that our alumni have taken. So I want this time for you to ask any question that you're curious about. So it doesn't have to be to all the panelists. It can be specific questions to individual panelists. So I'll probably, actually you can hold on to the mic. Whoever wants to answer, just use the mic. But just raise your hand and then feel free to start, asking your questions. This is just an open time now for Q&A.
If you guys don't ask a question, I will ask you guys a question.
So hopefully, yeah.
I have a question for the, for the project engineers here who are, how did you make that transition kind of from like the theoretical school side of more, the design side of things, going to the project side of things? What did the decision-making process look like?
Yes.
That's not,
Okay. Well, hold on. So I think there's I kind of knew it when I was in school. I think there's kind of that mental split of like she said, you go back and you feel like at peace when you're doing your calculations. Yeah. Calculations for me felt like a necessary evil. Like I know I'm good at math, I know I can do this, but I don't get a sense of peace and enjoyment. So I was like, I'm gonna learn this so that I have the strong foundation that I need to be able to go into an engineering setting and understand what people are talking about. And so that was kind of a natural switch there to say, okay, you've used this now, so when people say, oh, the moment on that beam is going to cause, you're like, okay, I know what a moment is, and I know how that's going to impact it, but the theory of calculating it was not what was going to stay with me. And then in terms of making that switch at work, the organization that you learn in engineering, having to have your processes that you follow, having to have those steps, thinking about things in a really critical and analytical way, translate so nicely to being a project engineer or a project manager, because you're going to have spreadsheets, you're going to have so many spreadsheets, it's going to be an insane amount of organization if you're getting onto any type of project. And so knowing how to take in a lot of information and make sense of it and then clearly explain it to other people, which is, I think, a lot of what you learn in engineering, is so valuable. So it's not something that you have to think about so much. It's like you have the raw tools to do it. You're just applying them in a different way.
I can add to that. The short answer to how to transition from the theory you learn in school to the practical aspect of things, the best way is to do an internship. But outside of that, one of the things that you as a student should keep in the back of your mind is you're not going to learn everything in school. You're going to learn to teach yourself things very quickly because you'll have the core background, but there's going to be so much new information you're going to have to learn the first few years out of school. I still take books and building codes home with me. Well, I'm studying for one of my licensing exams, so I take a lot of books home these days. But starting out, you're just going to have to learn a lot of things on the fly, on the job. One very important thing that was brought up is organization and being able to track the different things that you're going to have to address. Right now, when you're in school, you're thinking of it as you have a concrete design class, you have a steel design class, you have a timber masonry design class, you have all these compartmentalized things that you're learning. When you're on a job, all of them are going to come into play. And you're going to have to identify, okay, I'm going to apply this theory on this part, on this theory on this part. So being able to compartmentalize it and stay on top of like how you organize things is one of the transitions that take a year or so to adopt.
I wanted to add on that. So how you transition from the school to the real job. What you can do, I learned from my school years is you are in a school, you're learning what the things that you never learned before. So that actually is called learning skills that you train from the school. So what you can do is to polish your learning skills, because that is so critical when you're working at the real jobs and they might expecting you not comprehensive or observe all the knowledge with 18 weeks, but 2 weeks. Can you do that? So keep that questions. And second, again, the project engineer, they not just manage the project, they manage the people. So what manage people is not just the project, is physical and they didn't talk and you can give them math and they give you math back. People, if you give something back, if you give something, they're gonna give you a feedback. So communication is really important too. So especially you want to be active in the school, so that's part that you can train that communication. And the cost and time, I'm not gonna very emphasize on that, but very important that how you manage yourself to take all the classes, so that will be the scheduling. And the cost is if you want to go to a Starbucks, you want to buy the chocolate cakes and the blueberry cakes, which one you want? You want to buy more? But you only have $1. So that's a cost estimate.
Other questions? Yeah, just feel free to ask.
Did any of you guys think about changing your major, or were you all set on being a civil engineer?
I won't answer that.
I changed.
Did
anybody else change? Did anybody in the front change? No? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I changed like a million times, right? I thought I wanted to be, first I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Well, when I was a kid, I was telling my girlfriend I wanted to be like a bus, like a bus driver, like the MTA. So yeah, I've changed my major many times, but no, since I got to USC, it's been mostly civil engineering, right? But I think I had that liberty, right? Because I came from a community college, right? So it was I had a lot of different experiences. So I kind of tasted a little bit of everything, right? And I know there's a little bit more pressure on the students that are that start USC as a freshman, right? You need to figure it out. You're either going to stick with what you're going to do that first year, or you need to figure it out at the end of that semester, right? But it's been a good journey. I'm really happy I chose this. The way I chose it was kind of out of a limb, right? I was in my community college, and I was always pretty good at math and physics, but I just became really motivated the last 2 years of my community college, and I don't know, something kind of like clicked. Yeah, something just kind of clicked, and I said, yeah, this engineering thing, maybe it could be for me. Yeah, but it was never super linear, for sure.
So I'm going to talk without the microphone. Is that okay? Can everyone hear me? I'm loud and I don't like how my voice sounds in microphones. So I started as a chemical engineering major, and I switched after my sophomore year, first semester, and basically switched because I thought chemical engineering was chemistry, and it's not. But they don't tell you that when you're a high school senior applying into things, and it wasn't until I had taken thermodynamics and I was like, I didn't like that, and they're like, oh, that's what you're going to be doing for the next 2 years, and I realized I have to find something different. So I went to Viterbi. I don't know if Julie is still here.
She's not in.
Okay.
But she's in Marshall now.
Okay,
She's still at USC.
okay. So I went and met with Julie and basically said my parents aren't going to let me stay around, past my 4 years. I need to graduate on time. What options do I have given what I've taken? And that's kind of how civil engineering came about. It was the one that was like, okay, you can do this, and here's kind of your options there, or you could go to Annenberg and really change it, because you can basically graduate from that in 2.5 years with your engineering and AP stuff. And I was like, okay, so civil engineering it is. And I mean, maybe that's why my career path took a little bit longer, because it was something I kind of backed into. But I think where I've ended up and, the career that I have right now, sometimes the best decisions happen by accident.
So I didn't change majors really, but I will say my perception of the major changed drastically. When I was in high school, I kind of was interested in chemical engineering versus environmental for kind of the same reason. I liked chemistry and physics. And at the end of the day, I was like, well, environmental sounds better. I want to be helping the environment and not putting more chemicals into it. So that's kind of how I ended up in environmental engineering. I was never really interested in civil. I never really wanted to do buildings or structures or bridges. I mean, they're cool, but that wasn't my thing. And then I realized, when I started taking classes, the first intro class, CE 110, doing water and wastewater. Well, I definitely in high school did not think I would be into wastewater, but I really liked hydraulics. I took fluid mechanics, and that really clicked with me, and that's kind of how I went down that path. I did switch from environmental into environmental biotechnology, which I don't even know if that's offered anymore, but I think it was intended for pre-med majors. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you're considering med school. But by the time I realized that, I was already too far into it. I had taken 2 semesters of OChem, biochemistry, and MoBio, and I was like, just finish it already. So and then now in my day-to-day work, I'm a licensed civil engineer, but I do focus more on water, wastewater, and not structural buildings and stuff.
Question back there? It's for you. You're the Q&A.
Yeah.
Answer
the question.
Yeah.
I was going to ask Elise. I'm also interested in environmental engineering, and not really the structural and civil parts of it. Can you tell me what your day-to-day life looks like in engineering jobs, and also expand on what kind of some of the water projects you work on?
Sure. So straight out of school, you'll probably do a lot of field work. There's kind of 2 sides. So my first internship was environmental consulting, which is more science-y, not so many calculations. But that was kind of going out sampling stormwater, soil, groundwater, putting it in a bag or a bottle, sending it off to a lab, taking the results in, writing a report on it. So we do some of that at CDM Smith. I'm not in that side of things anymore. I'm more in the actual engineering side. So I've done a lot of modeling, which is kind of like the back end of design. It can kind of feed into design, tell us, you know, what the floods may be for, like, we worked with FEMA, developing flood maps. I did a groundwater modeling project in the Central Valley, looking at the San Joaquin River, and if the Bureau of Reclamation puts in a certain amount of flows, how that affects the nearby farms and their crop yields. So it's all related to water somehow. Some of it's report writing, researching the regulations. Recycled water is kind of the future in California. That's taking wastewater, treating it to like drinking water quality standards, and then putting it into the ground for replenishment right now. But we're working on, the Division of Drinking Water is working on their direct potable reuse regulations. So you know, we're getting closer and closer to closing the loop on that cycle, bringing the wastewater closer to the drinking water. Right now, I think it's a 6-month delay time required. So it's a lot of different that, you know, we can talk afterwards. I can tell you a lot more specifics. But yeah, I mean, the design, you know, we do pumps, pipes, gate system. It's kind of like mechanical design. Anything inside of a building is considered mechanical out to 5 feet outside the building. So as a civil engineer, I can stamp both the civil and the mechanical drawings, but the calculations are all the same for water. So I don't know. You want me to keep going? Okay.
Go ahead.
For those of you that have done internships, like, what do you guys recommend in terms of like the attitudes that you need to take going into it, or what do you wish you would have known going into your internships, or what do you wish, like, what do you think is the most valuable thing to get out of an internship?
I think that come prepared. No, I can, if you can hear me. Definitely be open to new ideas. Just because it's done in school that way, that doesn't mean that the building code is going to allow it that way. So come prepared with your materials. There's something about writing things down when you go in with your boss. Bring a notepad, ask questions, and write things down, because your boss doesn't want to be repeating himself or herself over and over again. Are you undergrad, graduate?
Undergrad.
Undergrad? Okay, so if it's undergrad, it's understood there may be classes that you have not taken. So you're going to spend a lot of your own time learning things, and in most cases, relearning things again. But your employer will know that, and they will be flexible with you. But the thing is, do come with an open mind and be prepared, because things will be different. I had an intern where I did not know how he actually graduated in structural without taking key fundamental structural classes. And when I asked him, "We haven't taken steel design?" He said, "Nah." And he seemed almost even proud of it. And I was like, blown away. How can you be structural? And you know, so just come prepared, and you'll get what you put in. If you put in 150%, you'll get 150% back. So it's always a very good experience. And then to the gentleman here, transitioning from school to project engineer, in our firm, that's a big leap. You usually don't go into a project engineer. You start at what's called a structural designer. It's kind of like almost like a working student in a sense, and you are really heavy on the calcs. And then gradually, you know, we start weaning you off the calcs and taking you to the field and meeting contractors, meeting architects. But the key thing for you is what she was pointing out is the internship. You want to lock in that internship when you're an undergrad to know if you like it. You know, do I want to do this? And once you know, it's like full steam ahead. You can also, you know, it goes in your resume. You develop that contact. Nothing but good. Nothing but good.
Yeah, the best thing to keep in mind about internship is you're going into it to learn as much as you can out of it. So don't be shy to ask questions. Try and figure things out on your own a bit before you ask questions. But it's just an extension of school. You're there to learn, so you can keep growing. And like I said earlier, you're not going to learn everything in school. I don't know about the other fields, but definitely not in structural. And you're not even going to learn all the materials in school.
Like if you're gonna go intern like at a big construction company, which I know is a pretty common internship coming out of Viterbi, like they have this program like down. They're getting 10, 15 interns a year if you're going to, you know, a Turner, a Swinerton, Balfour Beatty, any of the big guys. So they're gonna give you like, this is what you need to learn. You're gonna be like writing RFIs and reviewing contract documents and calling subs and asking them, where is this? You told me that this was gonna be here a week ago. So it's not as engineering heavy. It's much more project management heavy. The best thing that I like to see when an intern comes, you know, with an issue or a problem is coming with the question of, you know, how do I do this? Or do you come with, I'm in this situation, I'm not quite sure what to do, this is what I think I should do. And coming with that, like, look, I've thought about this, I'm not just coming, I have a problem, will you fix it for me?
Yeah.
But instead saying, this is what I think I should do, what am I missing, or is there another way I should handle it, or, you know, you might come with something and they say, nope, that's it, go for it. And that's like the best thing I think I can see in an intern is that willingness to think critically and put yourself out there without, like, at the same time, like, you are still an intern, don't just go run with it if you're not sure what to do, like, get that check and balance. So it's kind of a fine line to walk, but anytime I see an intern doing that, I'm usually going into our hiring manager and saying, like, you can't quite teach this. This kid's got it.
On the flip side, I will say one of the worst things you can do as an intern is pretend you know everything.
Yes.
Because obviously you don't. So ask questions, and if the engineer talking to you says, hey, do you have questions? Ask questions.